we normally start reviewing the whole week. Yeah. But this week was so dominated by the debate.
True. The debate was everything for the candidates for much of the week. There's a lot of preparation went into this debate. Danielle Smith was heavily trained. They worked on her voice, lowering her tone and things like that. Redford had a lot of training. I understand the only person in the debate who didn't have any training was Sherman, and I thought that he did extremely well, and maybe because of that unscripted nature. I mean, he's got his lines in mind, but I'm told they didn't even try to train him because you can't train Raj.
One of the things that we've often heard about these debates is that it's hard to pick a winner or a loser because so much is dependent upon the bias in which you enter it.
Exactly.
But as a journalist, you're not biased.
Of course not.
Can you take sort of an unjaundiced view at who won, who lost, who scored the big knockouts, and who didn't?
Well, first of all, every pollster and public opinion expert knows that if a person goes into watching a debate committed to one candidate or another, they're going to come out of it committed to that candidate. It's very rare to change the mind of a really partisan person. So it's everybody for themselves in making these conclusions. I thought that Danielle Smith did not lose. Although many people who love Alison Redford think she did. I don't think she did. The target was the undecided voter. It has to be because there's still 20% out there. The Tories seem to feel that it's actually higher than that. And those people might conclude that Danielle Smith did okay. That Alison, I thought, was pretty sharp, but she's got so much to answer for that even though Smith seems to be leading, a lot of the attack was on Alison. And that's partly because those two guys, Sherman and Brian Mason for the NDP, they don't like the Tories anymore. They've got an enormous history of grudges against the government. So they went after, almost instinctively, I think they went after Redford harder. That made for a lively evening. My goodness, some good lines, a lot of obvious personal hostilities, and a debate that actually meant something. It was really good as a hockey game.
There was the rest of the week, which isn't without note. There was a number of significant announcements from the PCs.
Well, they did. The PCs are really pulling out all the stops. They announced $650 million for post-secondary education projects. They announced a big plan for rural Alberta, while Wild Rose, meanwhile, was rolling out its democratic reform, the referenda and all that kind of thing. And the attack on the Tories becomes how much unbudgeted money are they offering to spend here. Post the budget they said was the plan for this year. And on Wild Rose it becomes whether it's scary and ooga booga because we're going to have referendum and all the rest of it. Wild Rose calculates that every time the PCs say we don't like referenda, it's because people out there might say, well, what do they got to hide? I mean, what are they worried about? And the same with recall of MLAs and politicians, but it really is the old Reform Party versus the Progressive Movement. It's like Preston Manning against Brian Mulroney in a way, because really the Reform, rather the Wild Rose platform is really emerged as being quite Reform Party oriented, which is not surprising because those people have been contained within the PC caucus for so many years, and now they aren't.
The last week, if you're going to get a knockout punch, if you're going to sway those public opinion polls, what do you forecast will happen in that last week?
I'm not going to forecast, but I will say that there's something emerging at this moment. Every time one of these things happens, it becomes the news cycle for a day, and they lose another day of getting their policy messages and so forth out. So it's almost like in a way they're still putting out fires, and they have no time left to do that because the election's a week Monday.